So I made a bit of a mistake in my last video. I had said I had posted that on the day of the Vietnam Grand Prix was supposed to take place, and it was a Saturday, and as we all know, that's not when races happen. So if you'll forgive me for that, then we can just kind of move along to this one. So what's up, you tire carcasses? I have a bit of an idea for a series I kind of want to start on this channel. It's basically doing fake race recaps of the actual Grand Prix that were unfortunately supposed to take place, that obviously can't because of the whole current situation in the world. But it's basically my idea to kind of quench everyone's thirst of F1, and I'm not going to be posting them, when the race would have happened exactly, because let's be honest, the days are kind of blending together as it is, so it doesn't really matter when I upload them. But yeah, I basically kind of want to run through what would have happened in the event that it would have taken place. Obviously with car performance, realistic as it is, but maybe some funny bits in there. I kind of have some funny ideas as to what it would have been. But yeah, without anything more said, let's get into the fake race recap of the 2020 Australian Grand Prix. So we all know the Albert Park City Street Circuit in Melbourne, Australia. It's held the race there since 1996. It's got 16 corners, 3 DRS zones, and it's 5.3 kilometers in length. And with that said, let's get right into the qualifying classifications. So now let's get into the qualifying classifications for the 2020 Australian fake Grand Prix. We see here that Verstappen has actually taken pole position from Lewis Hamilton, and in the dying seconds of Q3, he set a blistering time of a 120.383, just 0.2 quicker than Lewis. And of course, in true Aussie fashion, unfortunately a family of kangaroos had stormed the track, forcing the marshals to red flag the session, leaving Verstappen on pole position for Sunday's race. Oh wait. Okay guys, it appears I'm getting some breaking news. This just in, it has been revealed that Red Bull team boss Helmut Marko has been exposed as the culprit for organizing the kangaroo outbreak. Max will start on pole position, however Marko, yet again, is only going to be receiving a slap on the wrist. Big news there, but moving down through the rest of the grid for the race, we have Leclerc and Bottas lining out the second row of the grid, just a few tenths off of pole position, with Albon and Vettel lining up behind the two of them. Great performance for Albon there. First Australian Grand Prix with Red Bull. Solid performance for him, finishing ahead of German Sebastian Vettel. Disappointing, kind of unfortunate result for Vettel there. Not a good start that he needed for the season, definitely. Moving down to the best of the rest now, Sergio Perez with a fantastic time, coming in just a few tenths off of Sebastian Vettel, really showing that new Tracing Point has some genuine quickness. Ricciardo lining up just behind him, and then the two McLarens in Q3, Sainz in P9 and Norris in P10. Solid start to the season for them. I think that's exactly what they would have wanted to see. Esteban Ocon coming in 11th place, just missing out on Q3. Still, though, a solid performance for his return to Formula 1. I don't think Renault or anyone can be unhappy with that. Lance Stroll continuing to show that, unfortunately, he just isn't up to the task when it comes to qualifying against his teammate. Clearly, the car is capable of having a lot of one-lap performance, but let's just see what he can do tomorrow in the race, because as we know, he has some pretty good race starts. Daniel Kvyat struggling in that AlphaTauri bit. The thing looks just a little bit unstable. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do in the race. And moving on to Kevin Magnussen, who would have had a more competitive time in Q2. However, the constant scrutiny over his every move over the radio from team boss Günther Steiner, it ended up making him come up short, and he'll start from 14th on the grid, but that Haas showing some potential. Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 15 in Q2. Again, the AlphaTauri looks just a bit unstable. Maybe it's some of those parts they fitted from the Red Bull just not working out properly, but we'll see what they can do in the race tomorrow. And then George Russell just coming a few thousandths of a second off of Gasly to get into his very first Q2 appearance. Solid result from him, and really showing that Williams has something to give this year in 2020. We'll see what he can do in the race tomorrow. Moving down the rest of the grid now, the two Alfa Romeos, Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi. Unfortunate result for them. Albert Park hasn't been a great track for them in the past, so maybe we'll see what they can do in the race. And then obviously Nicholas Latifi coming in 19th. It's his debut qualifying in Formula One. Not too much can be expected, especially with him being in one of the slower cars on the grid, so let's see what he can do in the race. And starting last on the grid will be Romain Grosjean because, as Haas says, they wanted to show their quote unquote readiness for the 2020 season, and they decided to send him out as soon as the green light came on in Q1, without realizing until about halfway into his flying lap that they actually had fitted the intermediate tire. With an obviously abysmal time set, he came back into box for slicks. However, unfortunately, he totaled the entire car coming back into the pit after he sneezed mid-turn. His time was 10 seconds off the pace, and he will start 20 feet back from P19 on Sunday. And with that, that wraps up the fake qualifying classification for the 2020 Australian Grand Prix. Let's go right to the race now. So, to my right, I have the official fake FIA documentation breaking down the entire events of the race. And I'll tell you now, I've read them. It's a bit of a doozy. It was a good race. So, I mean, unfortunately, there was no video from it because it doesn't exist, but let's kind of use storytelling to rebuild the race in our imaginations, shall we? Lap 1 out of 58, Verstappen keeps the lead from Hamilton close on his tail. Magnussen has a shocking start, which allowed George Russell to actually soar into 14th place after he had an incredible shocking start. Grosjean unfortunately forgot to buckle up his seatbelt before the race started and got away from the pack somewhat, I guess you could say, behind schedule. And by the end of lap 1, Verstappen leads Hamilton and Bottas as Valtteri was able to get by Leclerc in the middle sector. Now moving on to lap 9, not much happening between lap 9 and 1, but there is a stunning move from Lando Norris on his teammate Carlos Sainz to get the Brit into P9. And on the same lap, Kimi Raikkonen has actually moved from 16th to 12th after a drunk nude fan somehow made it onto the pit wall, distracting all the drivers in front of him, causing them to bunch up and cause multiple front wings to break. Kvyat, Stroll, and Gasly all have to box for a new front wing, and the Iceman, however, pulled off to the side and gave the intoxicated fan a high five while continuing to chase down the rest of the pack. That's just the Iceman for you. Now moving on to the first pit phase of the race, lap 18, where Verstappen is going to opt for an earlier pit stop onto the hard tire, clearly looking to make a one-stop of some sort happen, while the other top guns are opting for the medium compound, giving Max the immediate tire advantage. But will it be worthwhile for the rest of the race? We'll see. Haas, in an attempt to recover their abysmal start to the Australian GP, they attempted to double stack onto the hard tire as well for both drivers. However, it appeared that the drunk fan from earlier somehow made his way into the Haas pit crew uniform and was not able to jack the car up, costing Grosjean a 40-second pit stop, ultimately leading the team to retire the number 8 car. Magnussen then quickly had to reverse from the box and continued the race, and of course was given a 20-second time penalty. Moving on to lap 30 of 58 now, Verstappen is leading this race with Lewis and Bottas hot on his tail as both Mercedes overtake the Flying Dutchman. However, with the clear tire advantage of Verstappen on the hards, this battle is far from over, and it's turning into a great strategy race to watch. When will the Mercs pit? Will Verstappen be able to hold the hard tires to the end? What's going to happen? All that and more after a quick message from our sponsor. Alright, I have 28 subscribers on this channel, and there's absolutely no way that any company would be willing to even think about sponsoring me, so let's just get right back onto the race, shall we? Moving on to lap 40 of 58 now, things are starting to get tense as the Mercedes have now both pit for another set of softs, which should take them right to the end of the race. We saw the first phase of tires lasted about 18 laps on the softs, and now there's 18 laps to go in this race. So Verstappen now has a 30-second gap to the Mercedes on the much faster and fresher tire, and it's clear this one's going to kind of go right down to the wire at this point. The rest of the field is fairly spread apart, and the focus is mainly on the front of the pack. Moving on to lap 51 now, Hamilton has made the gap just 12 seconds, flying through Albert Park, chasing down Max Verstappen. Lewis, now on lap 55 of 58, is now within 5 seconds of Verstappen. This is looking like it's going to literally go right down to the final lap. And now, moving on to lap 58 of 58, the final lap of the Grand Prix. Lewis is now right on the back of Verstappen, not close enough on any of the DRS straights. So this is going to have to be a final sector move. Going down now to the final corner, Verstappen is somehow nursing these tires as far as they can possibly go. He gets right on the power coming out of that swooping right-hander, and Lewis with DRS is right alongside him, but it is not enough. Verstappen takes the checkered flag by just 0.2 of a second to win an astonishing 2020 Australian Grand Prix. I am sweating. That was an incredible race. I promise I've never seen this before. I'm just reading this as the FIA have sent this to me. Wow. Fantastic race. Let's now look at the rest of the classification for the race in the official standings brought to you by no one because I am not sponsored. Now, taking a look at the final standings for the fake 2020 Australian Grand Prix. As we know, Verstappen barely winning out against Hamilton, taking the checkered flag in Albert Park. And as you see here, Hamilton has the fastest lap of the race because obviously it's Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas rounding out the podium positions and making us all cry because once again there is 2 Mercedes on the podium. Alex Albon coming in fourth, a strong performance for his first full season as a Red Bull driver, coming ahead of both Ferraris, who once again have a disappointing start to the season, coming in 5th and 6th, Leclerc and Vettel respectively. Daniel Ricciardo obviously wanting to have a better result than last year's Australian Grand Prix, where he didn't make it to turn 1, comes in 7th in his home race. A solid performance from Renault, really looking up towards hopefully the top of the best of the rest for 2020. Sergio Perez coming in 8th with a tight battle between him and Ricciardo all race long, but unfortunately Ricciardo prevailed there. Lando Norris, as we touched on earlier, coming in 9th with Sainz rounding out the points positions in 10th. Esteban Ocon could unfortunately just not break into that top 10. Sainz and Norris were just a bit too quick for him. Kimi, as we know, passed everyone after the intoxicated fan came on the pit wall, coming in 12th place. George Russell, a cracking opening race of the season for Williams, 13th place, no points, but I'd say a moral victory for the Williams outfit. Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, and Daniel Kvyat coming in 14th, 15th, and 16th, as we know, had to pit for a new front wing in the drunkenness accident. Antonio Giovinazzi just struggled all race long, still couldn't catch up after the incident, and did not have a great race. Nicholas Latifi automatically gets 18th because of the 2 Haas drivers DNFing out of the race, as we know. And that does it for the final race recap of the 2020 Australian Grand Prix. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I certainly enjoyed making it. It was a lot of fun, and I haven't really seen anyone else do something like this before, so I thought I would try something new. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed that, don't forget to lick the stamp and send that subscribe button. Leave a like down below and maybe comment what you think would have happened. I'm curious to know. I hope you guys are out there staying safe through all of this. So with that said, have a great day and peace out.